Folks, welcome back. My name is Rudy for a good conversation here. Oh, wrong way. Hold on. Yep. I think that's good. Is that fair? We'll go with that. So, hope you all having a good day today. Today's conversation is regarding the whole just state of magic, and I want to give everybody an update of where things are now that we're in the middle of March of 2024. Really, 2024? Where do we start? We have Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto type stuff hitting either all-time highs or above all-time highs by the time you watch this video. We've had an increase in the amount of people paying and engaging in transactions using crypto in the magic world. But I have to admit, I'm not seeing any form of major bullish uptick for older vintage ABU, Four Horsemen era, Urza's era, 90s era, sealed boxes, single cards. As much as I would like to really be like, yeah, woo, everything going up, we're really not seeing that still, which is kind of surprising. I thought we would, if I had to predict, I thought we'd really see this, I don't know if I want to call it wealth creation or wealth transfer. I thought for sure when we saw a huge uptick, and especially Bitcoin, we would start to see some overflow or profit locking or kind of moving over, sweeping into vintage magic. But, I mean, buy lists of old cards, I mean, they're off their lows from 6 months to a year ago. I mean, they're maybe up 10, 20%, maybe 30% from all-time lows. But really, we've had very lackluster excitement in old magic. Even on this channel, I haven't really covered a lot of old magic or buyouts or price spikes or all-time highs. Or if you've actually noticed, most of the videos about upticks and things have been on new magic because there's really not a lot to report on when it comes to price swings and news and exciting things in the old magic world. And that's disappointing or, I don't know, boring? It's not what I expected. And that brings me to an interesting topic. There is always that small chance that the glory days of all of these old magic cards and old fogies and nostalgia and all this, there's always this theory in the collectible world that certain genres, certain collectibles have a peak and newer generations will not connect with previous generations, maybe nostalgia connections, because young people today do not have nostalgia. If you're 18 years old today, or 21 years old in the United States, you're not saying, man, when I was a teenager, when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, middle and high school, man, everybody was playing with 4th edition Ice Age and revised Dual Lane. Like, that's not a real thing for the next generation. And things like that do have impacts on how they have look backs and how they view the past. The way our little meat popsicle human brains work is we tend to always favor the previous block of time, the previous decade. As we all get older, the probability that we believe the previous decade or the previous 2 decades were better than today's decade will always increase. Most people, no matter if it's better or worse, which that's a very complicated conversation, no matter what the outcome is, things could be all-time high great, or it could be the worst it's ever been. Inflation, all this wars and political events and all this stuff. I mean, you can argue pro and con either way. That's kind of indifferent. But historically, there is always that small chance that I hate to use the term super cycle. People throw that term a lot around from Wall Street and crypto and stuff like that. I'm not really a big fan of that super cycle kind of. It's almost like an emotional, like hurry up. It's kind of maybe a FUD term. But there's always a small chance that, the peak of the euphoria did happen from, 2016 to 2020 into 2021 when it had the blow off. There is always a real chance that we don't really experience in the next decade or the next so many years or in our lifetime another reserve list buyout, crazy extreme type of demand for old magic cards. Now, that doesn't mean the card revised dual lands and cannot continue to drift higher and go up 5, 10, 15% a year. We're not saying it's not possible. But what I'm saying is you don't feel it. And that's something that when I filmed the box opening the other day I did an entire case for Patron for the March of the Machine epilogue set. It's almost an hour-long video. Most people won't watch it. But towards the middle and end of that video, the last 20, 30 minutes of the hour-long, about halfway point, we start talking about the feel. And the end of the video, I kind of give my opinion of it. And it reminded me of this moment. And the reason I'm sharing it again is it doesn't feel like it's good. Even if the product or the single cards, or even if the cards go up, and even if the expected value isn't bad, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't have that feeling. And if you don't have that feeling, how do I say this, keeping it PG? If you don't have that dopamine, endorphin, that release, you know what I mean? If you don't have that euphoric hit, it doesn't create a strong, I don't know, how do I be cheesy and cliche? A neurological connection. It doesn't engrave a strong memory. How about that? Trying to keep it kind of normal. No giggities. Trying to keep a good video here. And that's the vibe I get today. Like when we talk about new Magic, no matter what the internet says about, serialized cards and, they're overdoing it. They don't know what they're doing. They're all out of 500 or 250 or maybe out of 100. They don't even use new art. They're lazy. We can argue all these different directions with it, but in reality, it's kind of working. Sets that have serialized cards do better. Wizards seems to be able to raise the price and have more value from these chase cards. Do I agree with that direction? Look, not really. I think Magic should go back to pre-2020, where we literally had blocks and we would just released, hey, we don't have draft boxes anymore. What the hell do I have today? We just have play boxes. Even if there was just, the fact that, before Karlov Manor, we had draft, set, collector, commander, then the pre-release, and then not including small supplemental or starter stuff. So let's call it 5 different SKUs for a standard Magic release. That's insane. That's insane. There's an argument to be had of just play boxes and collector boxes. There's an argument to be had of just play boxes and nothing else. Having so many commander decks diluted the brand from cashing in so much. Having so many secret layers diluted and wiped out all the secondary market equity of modern cards. And now Wizards has a harder time trying to sell reprint sets, so they have to go in different directions. Hence, serialized cards, future cards that are going to be signed, redemption cards, special versions of serialized cards. And I don't know what that means long term. None of us do. I can lie and pretend that I know the direction, but we don't. But the point of this video is, it doesn't feel like the vintage cards have any traction still. And the funny part about that is, a lot of vintage cards they have gone up from the lows a year ago. Almost all old Magic is up between 10 to maybe even 30, maybe even 35, 40% for a couple select outliers. But the average vintage card is up 10 to 30% from its lows a year or so ago for Magic 30. Okay? 2-year bear market, Magic 30, overprinting, all these things that happen that just annihilated the biggest dumpster fire we've ever seen in modern history of Magic. And even though some of these prices have gone up, nobody seems to care. They're boring. There's no excitement around it. The views on any YouTube channel that talks about vintage Magic, Four Horsemen sets, grading, collecting, investing, playing, anything, even the players of old school Magic, even the collectors, the set collectors, the graded card collector. Rudy, I'm only interested in an Invoke the P from Legends, but only if it's a quad plus minus divided by multiplied sign. If it doesn't have at least 2 pluses, I don't do single plus. The eras, and I'm not saying people aren't interested in it, but it doesn't have that wow factor anymore. There is not some form, even a lot of people and patrons who reported back to me, who went to even these Magic Fests and different things. There's a lot of people there. People had, I guess some people said that was great and other people said it was awful. But anyways, besides how it went, There's a lot of people there. There's vendors selling new Magic, Modern, Commander, Vintage, Legacy, Type 1, Type 1.5, Extended. We don't, oh, wow, I'm too old for Extended and Type 1. Oh, wow. Okay, Vintage and Modern and Standard. Pioneer and Pauper, is that a thing? Is that a thing? No. I don't know if and or how long it will take for that kind of excitement to come back. And when we look at Fallout today, okay, we are just now at the release of Fallout. The collector boxes hit a high of about 500, and as of the filming of this, they're probably around 400 on TCG Player plus tax. And every once in a while, Amazon, if you can catch it in a few minutes, they'll put some up for $325 plus tax, about $350, $360 shipped. So if you're lucky, you can grab some from Amazon, throw the dice at $360. Otherwise, LGS's TCG Player are pretty much 400 plus with tax. And they're kind of bouncing around all over the place. But here's the thing. The Fallout Commander decks have been going crazy. Absolutely unbelievable. Like, I could feel the excitement and the true demand of people wanting Fallout Commander decks. And yes, I'm trying to get some more. I've been working on some with some other sources and different stores who maybe have some stragglers. I'm trying to get some more so I can, at least sell some or anything, because those are pretty much all gone from a release, even when I sold them. But the market's been really happy with it. There feels to be, people are genuinely excited about it. Stores are excited about Fallout Commander. They're opening the decks and selling singles. Players, collectors are buying the decks to play, buying the decks for certain singles. They're just being utilized, the utilities in multiple directions, and the market's pretty happy with it. But it's interesting to see how different things feel in this cycle. I'm not going to focus this on the crypto Bitcoin type thing, but if they always say, "Oh, this cycle's different, Rudy. This one's different." I love Bitcoin. I've been involved with it for 5 years. I've been holding Bitcoin and taking Patron payments in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all this stuff for 5 years now. And I've never really gone on my way to buy a bunch of crypto. I don't have a bunch of high-risk altcoins and little, tiny coins and meme coins. I don't really have a lot of that. The only thing I have is from people who paid me in payments, and I sold them cards in the past over the last 5 years. Obviously, because I've held on to crypto and mostly Bitcoin, Ethereum for the last 5 years, all the way from the highs, all the way to the lows, I've done incredibly well with it just because I've accumulated so much from 5 years of taking payments in it and selling cards. But this cycle feels different with Magic is probably a bigger story than it is with the Bitcoin thing. Bitcoin is one of those things, fixed supply. There's estimated, some people think up to 10 to 30% of all coins are lost. You have the old Satoshi coins that no one can get access to. You got BlackRock and ETFs, buying supply whenever inflows of funds and recalibrating and assets under management. Look, I'm sure over the next so many years it's going to keep going up. It could crash by the time you watch this video. It could break all-time highs. Nobody has a clue the short-term direction of these things. It's all speculation. It is what it is. But when you look at the cards, the world of Magic, I almost feel like maybe that's something that we all haven't fully calculated yet, is that the real impact of the last 2-year bear market in Magic 30, maybe it wasn't the prices tanking. Maybe it was more of the vacuum of people leaving the market and the chatter of how everybody's told everybody about what happened of Magic 30. And the damage is just, maybe it really is a fundamental, maybe that really did change the fork in the road. Maybe that did set us on a new path in the future that did change everything. And that could very well be a real thing. I'm skeptical. I still love the old cards. Doesn't change my attitude on buying them from collections or hoarding them and being Rudy like I've been the last 20 years. But there is a very real chance now that for many, many years from now, even if we continue to see slow upticks, there's not going to be any major excitement around the old cards. And there is a small probable chance that, one of the outcomes of the future is that the pool of people wanting old Magic does diminish year over year, therefore putting less demand of people wanting those cards. There's always going to be some X supply and X demand of people who want them versus how many are out there, which is why they're always going to have some form of value. But the market does not feel excited. There is no, like I said back to the beginning of this video, if you go to even just YouTube views of any channel that does a vintage box opening, that does, vintage deck techs, anything that does vintage, hey, I got my graded cards back from, hey, try PCG Rudy, hey, or graded cards back from any grading company, there's just not a lot of engagement. People searching for old Magic cards online, the bids and the quantity of people trying to accumulate remains very weak. And that can be into the argument of the lost trust of Magic 30, the directions, they're going to run out of things to reprint, they eventually just got to break the reserve list and nuke the system. All these things that's been on the internet for the dawn of time. But that's where we're at. So, I'm not sure how many years, if ever, we are going to see I don't want to call it a bubble, but like another euphoric run, another exciting era of vintage Magic cards. A lot of people message me, and a lot of you all on patrons, and remember this channel's pretty much sponsored by you all watching the videos, and pretty much the patrons who support this channel and send me messages and communicate and sometimes buy stuff from me. That's really it. And it's been interesting to see the changes. I would not have expected in 2024 how different things are. Like, to be very blunt about it, the excitement in the card world is pretty much around the big sorcery, and yes, the Rudy sorcery beta event coming up here with the card reveal and everything. The One Piece. I was going to say Lorcana was off the chart hype, but ever since they've really adjusted supply, and supply has gone through the roof, and reprinted the old sets, and everything's come back down to earth, Lorcana's still very successful. No, I'm still not messing with it. I just don't like Ravensburg to manage it. I mean, they're still doing fine. But most of the excitement and demand is the new Pokemon set, a new Magic set, especially when we have something like Fallout. And of course, One Piece, Lorcana, Sorcery, and of course, Flesh and Blood has a new release every couple months. And the last Flesh and Blood set was, incredibly successful. I'm going to call it the last Flesh and Blood heavy hitter set was probably the most successful set we've had. And maybe 3 sets, maybe 4. At least the feedback from patrons and customers is that I asked them, how many sets has it been since you thought a Flesh and Blood set was as good as heavy hitters? And most people have answered either Dynasty or Uprising. They like it, so essentially they like it better than what? Outsider, Bright Lights, Dusk Till Dawn. I thought Dusk Till Dawn was really good, but I guess time changes people's perspectives. Anyway, so that's where that is. But when it comes to the old Magic, there's not a lot of excitement and hype. And it could be, it could still be lingering effects similar to the Pokemon boom and bust of, the Logan Paul stuff, the old Pokemon. And it's interesting because even if you go, I remember this a couple times. In the world of Pokemon, when I started on YouTube in 2016, 8-9 years ago, there was a couple really large Poke YouTubers. And their views would be in the millions. And then when we hit that overprinting XY evolutions into Sun and Moon, Pokemon went through a kind of we'll just call it a crash or a bear market. Pokemon went through a bear market from overprinting. And it was interesting to see from that 2015-16 era to the 2018-19 era how different the views, the engagement, and the sell-through rates and the excitement was on Pokemon. It was like 2 different worlds. And then we hit 2020 through 2022. Every Pokemon Sword and Shield set just came out and went straight up. It's so fascinating to see how each block of time feels like a whole different book. And I also still firmly believe that each block of time contains very different people in the market. I don't believe most people, like the millions of people in the 2015 to 2017 Pokemon, were not the same millions of people in the 2020-2022 Sword and Shield market. Yes, there's going to be some overlap. Yes, some of them were. But I believe, in my opinion, at least 30 to 50%, maybe even higher, maybe even over 50%. So let's just say half. I believe at least half of the people, and from each one of those blocks of time, were different people. They're not the same people riding up, riding down, new era, bad era, bull market, bear market. I don't think, because human beings are not designed to stick with things. Human beings are designed to always move forward. They close chapters in their life. They get new friends, new loved ones, new lovers and boyfriends and girlfriends, leave the past behind, new jobs, new careers, new directions. I got to move out of that apartment. I'm going to get this house. I'm going to sell that house. I'm going to move. Human beings love to have new chapters of their lives. You know, the whole New Year's resolution. This year, we're starting over. We're moving forward. New Rudy. New haircuts. Less tacos. Never less tacos. Always more tacos. And, I think when it comes to magic, though, the old magic, it just feels really weird. It's so weird to see the excitement and the amount of patron messages on Ravnica Remaster. The amount of patrons going, Rudy, what's going on with Karlov? Is it going to zero? The amount of messages excited for Fallout. The amount of you all asking for Fallout Commander. And hey, let's do another fun thing. Since most people don't watch these videos to the end, let's do another fun thing, a fun experiment. If you're a patron, send me a private. If you want Fallout Commander decks, I have like half of one pallet. What is that, 40? Something left right now, I think. If you want Fallout Commander decks, and you're willing to buy at least between 2 and 12 Fallout Commander deck sets, I will sell. I know Fallout Commander deck sets right now are TCG Player 215 plus, like 230 shipped. eBay's like 210. Just for S's and G's. I just want to know. I'm curious. Just to see how many patrons actually watch these videos to the end. Send me a private message if you would like to buy Fallout Commander decks. $149 shipped. If you're willing to buy at least 2 sets, all the way up, I will sell you up to 12 sets of Fallout for $149 shipped per set of decks. So if you want 1 set, $150. 2 sets, $300 or $149, whatever it is. I don't know the exact math. So $149, $298. You get the idea. I just want to see. That's shipped to your door. No hidden fees. Rudy, give me your zip code so I can calculate shipping. Don't be fucking stupid like some companies are. That's it. That's the flat part. So I just want to see how many people do that. I know Fallout's the hottest thing, and I'm very curious to do an experiment here. So, yeah, if you're interested, Fallout Commander deck sets, $149 per Commander deck set, shipped. Send me a patron private message. Rudy, I watched your video at the end. I'd like to buy a minimum of 2 or all the way up to 12, and I'll sell them to you at fire sale, no profit pricing. I'm just really curious to see how many people do that. That's all. Let's see what happens. Back to the end of the video here. So, I just wanted to express to you all the concern of, as much as my favorite playground in this world is vintage Magic cards, ABU, Four Horsemen, Urza's era, revised 4th edition era, all these things around here. Hey, look at this. Old Fire and Lightnings, Commander's Arsenal. I love the old stuff. I'll be the first one to, pump it to you all and tell you how proud and how much I enjoy it and how much it means to me. But I'll also be the first one to tell you all that I'm very surprised on how little everybody cares about old Magic right now. Because the age-old meme of the Alpha Investments was, don't forget, look what Rudy sells, and look what Rudy hoards. He sells all the new stuff, but he never sells the old! And that is true. That's been my business model from day one, because I can't order pallets of the old stuff to support thousands of patrons, and they're too expensive. But anyways, it's just weird that, I know this is a crazy thing, but people want the new stuff. And I've already been getting a lot of messages making sure, Rudy, you're going to carry the old Outlaws, the Western Magic set coming up, right? I'm super excited. And I was like, okay, well, I wasn't sure how that was going to go after Karlov's messy launch. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to carry the new Outlaws and Western Magic set here. Thunder Junction. I always want to say Junction Road. And yeah, we're going to carry the collector boxes. I'm even going to order the Commander deck sets because so many patrons keep asking me to carry the Commander decks of the old Magic sets. So we're going to go back to doing that. And yeah, we're going to carry it. And yeah, we're going to carry Assassin's Creed. Yep, we're going to do Modern Horizons 3. with the hopefully lower prices. Insanity. And yes, later on, yes, folks, you all watching and patrons, we're going to do Final Fantasy and Marvel Magic the Gathering in 2025. Yes, was it Bloomhaven? Bloomharrow? The almost looks like a Lorwyn Morningtide set. That new Bloom set, we're going to be dealing with that. So, I know it's a weird thing, but it really just feels that money is more interested in new Magic versus old Magic. And it feels that money remains mostly interested in the new Flesh and Blood set, the new Sorcery, or I guess the last bit of my beta Sorcery, and the first Sorcery release, hopefully at the end of the year, or whatever. And of course, One Piece, and let's not forget some of the White sets. I mean, I can't believe the success of some of these White sets. Azure Lane, they announced due to extreme demand, and some stores never even getting it, they're reprinting Azure Lane and Weiss. And yes, I'm going to try to get as much as I can so I can actually keep some, because I have none of the... Now remember, the reprint of Azure Lane Weiss is identical, except the cards are silver signatured instead of gold. Every other card's the same. Everything's the same. So that's the only difference. And yeah, it's still going to be really successful, and it's still not going to go to zero, and it's going to be a very hyped thing. And even Chainsaw Man with Weiss, huge success, man. Spy Family, huge success in Weiss. There's just, Guilty Gear, that was a really good one too. They've been releasing some really good, successful products. So, that's where things are at right now, ladies and gentlemen. I guess the conclusion of this video is I can't believe how much everything is moving forward. Except old vintage Magic and ABU Four Horsemen, which was Rudy's most prized thing that he always put all his money in. And again, I still try to keep all my hoarded positions and new stuff too. But it's just really surprising. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. But if you're looking to expand into old Magic cards, well, definitely take your time, look for deals, and it looks like you're going to have plenty of time to do it. I don't see it crashing. I don't see it really skyrocketing. I don't see much of anything anytime soon. Now, we may get changes maybe later this year or next year, or maybe when the Fed starts cutting interest rates going into the end of the year next year, maybe we get a little bit of fuel in the fire there to get it all warmed up. But yeah, I would say the weakest, coldest market right now is going to be vintage and old Magic, and the medium kind of neutral is going to be Weiss, new Pokemon, and I would say the hot new markets are going to be Sorcery, new Magic, Disney Lorcana, and One Piece. That's kind of, if I had to rank kind of the hot to normal to where the bad stuff is, and that's crazy to say. That's really crazy to say. Hope you all learned something today. I appreciate you all joining me for an interesting conversation. As always, you'll have a beautiful day out there. What do we have coming up here in a week or so? So what do we have for, I guess we got the new Pokemon, Temporal Forces, right? By the way, add some clarity to that. I've had a lot of messages on that with patrons. Just a heads up, just so you all know what's going on behind the scenes with the new Pokemon set. The new Pokemon set print runs were reduced a pretty good amount. So it is not going to be a come out and tank, but you're always going to... The TCG player and stores are always going to take a new Pokemon release and dump it as quick as possible to get off the books. That is how this world works. That's how the industry works. It's not going to change. That's why I always tell you all, release plus 30 or R plus 90 days until you get true value. Usually 90 days after release gives you true market value of a product. But be aware, Pokemon did something I thought was really, really professional and successful. And that is, small Pokemon stores did not get their allocation cut. So in other words, if you ordered less than 60 boxes, your LGS is going to get their full Pokemon Temporal 60 boxes or less, whatever they ordered. Now, stores that ordered 60 to maybe 500 did get a little bit of adjustment from most of those stores, maybe a 10-20% cut. Now, stores in evil people in basements like me, who requested 2,000 to 4,000 boxes, we did get cut. I was cut 41%. So, not terrible, but, if you request 5,000 boxes and you get cut to, down to 2,000 or 3,000, I'm not really upset by that. That gives me the opportunity to sell 1,000 boxes at launch and offer them to patrons and viewers like you. And I can also keep a pallet or two for myself and my future heavy bags and all the drama, whatever. So that I like that kind of thing. It's a good supply, but it's not too extreme. And I like the idea that the small stores who just want a little bit do not get allocated and cut. And the big boys like Evil Rudy, who want 5,000, get cut to maybe 3,000. I think that is a proper way to do allocations. There is nothing wrong with that, and I have no issues with that kind of approach. I think that's the way it should be, because it is not fair if it's not fair to do what they call an even blanket cut. Actually, we should have a whole video on allocations. We'll do that maybe. It's not fair to do that. If every store orders a certain number and you just go down the list and cut everything in half, that's not fair. If one store ordered a case of 6 and you give them 3 boxes, that's not the same feeling. Remember, like we just talked about the whole vibe of the market. It doesn't feel the same as an asshole like Rudy who orders 5,000 and goes to 2,500. You see what I'm saying? So an uneven cutting based on size and allocations, I actually think that's kind of a fair approach. I don't have any issues with that. I think maybe we should do a whole video on allocations. If you guys want to see that, let me know below. Otherwise, I guess have a great day. I'm hungry. Let's get some waffle fries.